here we are. It is the last week of March, and we have officially passed our last frost date. Our last frost date was actually March 23rd, so we're literally just a few days away from our last frost date. But I'm excited to show you guys how things are looking in the garden this month. I feel like we've gotten a lot of work done over the past few weeks, and we have a lot more ahead of us as we head into like full-on spring. So I think within the next week I'll be able to start getting my tomatoes in the ground. So before I get ahead of myself, just know that you will see tomatoes in the ground come April. But until then, let's go ahead and take a look at how things are looking here at the end of March in our March garden tour. Okay, so here we are, a full look at the garden. It is earlier in the day than I did February's garden tour. In February, I did our garden tour at about 5 o'clock in the evening. One thing you'll notice is I still have not picked these pots up, so at some point that'll get done. And right now it's about 3. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon. So this is where the sun is at in my yard at 3:30. And things are greening up ever so nicely. But this is a full view of the garden. And we are going to take a look at things plot by plot. So let's get started. We'll start right over here, which is where I usually like to start, over at these arch trellises. Okay, so if we start over here at this first raised bed by the arch trellis, I put some kale in here. This is a sedum. And then those are daffodils. So those haven't bloomed yet. I got those in later in the season, so they're just now starting to get their bloom stalk. So they'll probably bloom in maybe like 2 weeks or less. Probably about 2 weeks. But yeah, and then this is blue Scotch curly kale around this sedum. Right over this way, you can see my potted hydrangea. I think I am going to transplant this into my front gardens. I'm still working on clearing a spot for it, but it seems to be doing okay here. I'm actually gonna move it into the shade. The sun here is a little intense for hydrangeas, so they can do just fine in partial to almost full shade because how intense our sun is. It will literally burn them. But this is my mint, my peppermint, and I started out with a patch just like right over here, and as you can see, over the winter it sent out runners, and now it's reaching all the way over to this edge. I'm actually gonna let it take up this whole bed because I sell quite a bit of mint at our farmers market. So I also like to dry it for teas, and I like to use it for flower arrangements. So I have a plethora of uses for mint, so I'm okay with it taking over this bed. But then I have some self-seeded red lettuce there. By the end of this month, I'm going to have some cucumbers transplanted here and then let them trellis up this arch trellis. Right over this way, we have collard greens that were transplanted a few weeks ago, and they're just now starting to bounce back and they're no longer yellowing. This one in the corner seems to attract aphids pretty heavily, so I had been picking them off, but at this point I'm actually going to leave them there and see if this collard green will act as a trap crop to keep aphids off of the other ones. This one's having a hard time anyway, so I'm okay with letting this one go so that the other ones can stay healthy. So you can see they like to wilt a little bit in the heat of the day, and it's not even that warm. It's in the mid 60s, but they are definitely a cool season crop. This area of the garden does get shade first, so that's why I planted it here, so that they could have some respite towards the end of the day. And then you guys can see my husband installed this cattle panel about a week ago here at the edge of our retaining wall. It's like a drop down, straight drop on the other side of that retaining wall, so we wouldn't really let the kids play over here ever because of that. So that's just an extra security measure so that they can spend a little bit more time in the garden. What I'm going to do is plant raspberries here and let them grow up this trellis, and then in the edges of these raised beds I'm going to put cucumbers and let them drape over the side and then trellis up. I think they'll do well since this part of the garden, like I said, gets shade first. So the collards are doing good. Then we'll come. We put this shade cloth here, but I didn't fully think that through because it's not doing a whole lot right now, and because of the position of the sun, but it'll do a lot more once the summer's here. But I just wanted to go ahead and get it up so it could be up here. This is more sedum here, here, and here. They've all come back so nicely. This will be their 3rd year in the garden, so they just get fuller each year. Probably at the end of next year I'll probably have to dig them up and divide them, and I'll spread them out, but they just look so cute. And then I have lemon balm that has come back prolifically. I'm super excited about that. Lemon balm is one of my favorite herbs. And then I also have some kale around these sedum as well. So this shade cloth should help these kale last a lot longer through the summer, but we shall see. This is my this is the longest I've ever grown kale before. I have grown kale before, but that was when we had ducks and they ate all of it, so we didn't actually get to enjoy any of it. So this is the longest I've had kale in my garden. So the lemon balm, it's still growing pretty low right now. I'm probably gonna harvest some of it pretty soon to dry for teas. Let's take a look at our other square raised bed right over here. So in this one, you can see the ranunculus. If I had gotten these in at the appropriate time, these would be blooming already. Ranunculus are one that here in zone 8A you have to get in in the fall, because once the soil and the air temperatures reach, I want to say like 80 degrees, the corms go dormant, and we get that here pretty quickly in the spring. So I'm still holding out. Maybe we'll get flowers, but if we don't, at least the corms were able to grow leaves, which will store energy, and I can try again in the fall. And then there's a snapdragon in that back corner. Over here were some extra collards that I had. I just transplanted them over here the same time I did the other ones because I didn't want them to go to waste. I do think that this bed drains a lot more quickly and doesn't retain as much moisture, so it makes growing greens in this area a little bit difficult, but I'm gonna keep trying and see. I'm gonna just keep trying to give them care and see if they'll actually produce some nice sized collards for me. Right across from that square raised bed we have this rectangular Hugo Culture Bed. Here I have transplanted some Shasta daisies. These are ones we've been growing for about a year, and so no, these ones I think we've been growing for about 2 years. So I put them here. These like to multiply as well, so I divide them. I've been dividing them every year and just plugging them in different places throughout the garden. I put some gladiola here a couple weeks ago, and I'm really happy to say that several of them have popped out of the soil. Gladiola, the first year that I grew gladiola, they grew amazingly. The second year, not so much. I think I wasn't watering them enough, and so most of them never developed a flower, and I think they weren't getting enough sun. So I planted them here in full sun this year, and this bed, since we have been doing the Hugo Culture method for 2 years, it's to the point where it actually retains moisture very well. So I do think the gladiola will do well in this bed. My only concern was that because it retains moisture so well, the potential for the corms rotting, but so far so good. And I'm just excited to see how quickly that they've popped out of the soil. I need to go back and look at when was the exact date that I planted them so I can remember to do that next year. we will come over this way. This is what I called Tomato Alley last year. Had tomatoes growing in this bed and tomatoes growing in that bed. And I'm gonna have tomatoes here again this year, but I'm just gonna trellis them in a different way. Right now we have sugar snap peas, and these I'm growing mostly for my family. My two youngest kids absolutely love sugar snap peas, so they asked me to grow them again this spring. At first I wasn't going to, I was going to wait again for the fall, but I think it'll be nice to go ahead and grow some. So we have our sugar snap peas, and then what I'm going to end up doing is growing tomatoes along this edge and trellising them to this conduit here at the top of this trellis. I did some seed tape on this side of this garden bed, so I did some lettuce seed tape. So hopefully we'll get 2 rows of lettuce growing right here in front of the peas, and then as the peas grow up they'll shade the lettuce, and that should give us a little bit of a longer season with the lettuce once it starts to warm up. But then whenever the lettuce do start to bolt, I'll probably do a second succession of lettuce, or I might do green beans. So we'll see. It's kind of up in the air. And then right here is some Shasta daisies that I put here last fall and didn't think that they made it, but here they are. So they made it. And then we need to clean up our compost pile. It's looking pretty rough right now. But yeah, we will get to that this week probably. In this raised bed I have lily bulbs. I put them in the fall, and they were older bulbs because they were already sprouted, but a couple of them have come back, which you kind of take a chance when you get bulbs that have already sprouted, but that wasn't up to me. It was what the company sent me, so I'm glad to see that there are at least a few that are starting to sprout. And then we'll take a look at this raised bed here, and then we'll take a look at the flower beds. Okay, and in this raised bed, this is our split raised bed. I have a bunch of daffodils. These are almost done. Some of these were second year flowers and some of these were first year flowers, and I didn't know daffodils did this, but I guess when they're putting on a first year flower, some of the casings, like there's not really like many petals in here. They're kind of like crispy. And does that mean I need to fertilize? Do I need to feed the bulbs more so that they can have more energy to create a fuller flower? Some of these were really full, and then some of these were just very thin and not doubled and frilly like they're supposed to. This variety I think is called Ice King, but some of these, inside the casing there wasn't much. So you can see them here. I ended up just pulling the stem off so that the bulb could focus on getting energy in the leaves, from the leaves to the bulbs, and not try to make seed or anything. So I went ahead and pulled these stems off, but a few of them look like this. Does anybody know if that means I need to fertilize? I think that there's special fertilizers for flowers. I usually just use balanced fertilizers that are just all-purpose, multi-purpose, so I don't know a whole lot about specialty fertilizers. And then here I have some blueberry plants. This is our first year with blueberry bushes. I didn't actually put them in the ground. They're still in their pots. When I got them, they already had blooms, so I didn't want to jostle them too much or have them potentially experience transplant shock and then lose all their blooms. So I left them in their pots, and then I just dug down in the raised bed, put some mulch in the bottom, and then just put the pots in there so that the roots could stay cool. And then next year, or in the fall, once the plants go dormant, we're going to transplant them into their homes, I believe. But I wanted to make sure that this would be a good spot for them, because if this was too much sun or too little sun or water or whatnot, I would be able to just move the pots as needed. And the paper mulch is retaining moisture really well. From what I've seen online and from what people have told me, you just want to make sure that your berry plants don't ever dry out. So I think the mulch is doing a pretty good job. But yeah, I'm eager to see if these flowers actually got pollinated. We have 4 plants and they are 2 different varieties. The ones I put next to each other, these are 2 different varieties. And then the 2 over there are 2 different varieties. Their tags all say that they're self-fertile, but that they do benefit from being next to a different variety. This is Brightwell Blueberry. And then this one is Tiff Blueberry. This one says fruit in mid-June. So it already has flowers and it's about to be April. So does that mean it's gonna take a full 2 months for these flowers to develop into berries? I'm anxious to see, or I'm eager to see. But I did notice that here at the back of these flowers, you can see it has like a blue color. So I need to see if that's any indication that these were actually pollinated. I really love the way that these plants look though. I think the blooms are so cute. Okay, that's enough fawning over these blueberry plants. Let's go ahead and take a look at our flower beds in the center of the garden. As we walk over to our flower beds, I just wanted to point out there's a moth. I think it's a hummingbird moth. Okay. Yeah. Yep, the hummingbird moths are here. There it is. I feel like those are a great pollinator for me. They get here early in the season, super early in the season. I just wanted to point out the currant bush that's currently being pollinated by that little guy. And then the pomegranate. I have another pomegranate over there, but I think we had a late, semi-late frost, and all the leaves that were on it turned brown. So this one of the branches did that, but then all the other leaves were fine. So hopefully they both bounce back all right. But over here, hold on, let me move because this moth thinks I'm in its territory. Okay, over here in this back flower bed, we have calendula. This actually is from last year, so it overwintered, and it looks like it may bloom again for me this year. And there's a bunch of seedlings down there where the calendula self-seeded. We have a big patch of garlic here and some self-seeded sunflowers back here in the rocks. These sunflowers that have been growing for the past 2 years actually love the heat. So growing in rocks doesn't faze them at all. They actually love it. They love the heat. In this flower bed, I transplanted some Procuts in that corner. We have some tulip foliage. They didn't actually bloom this year. And then we have some comfrey there at the edge. I think at the end of this year, I will divide that comfrey. This bed is full of Procut sunflowers. And this front flower bed also has Procut sunflowers. And then there was some carrots that I tried to plant early in the spring that didn't ever germinate, so that I thought they were all gone, but now there are several germinated. And then there's some lettuce here as well from lettuce seed tape that I put in after I thought the carrots hadn't germinated, but they have. So we'll see how those do growing together. And then these sunflowers have actually been growing considerably slow. This is a variety that I haven't grown super often. It's called Pro Cut Gold Light, but the days have been relatively cool. So I'm excited for whenever our days are above 70 degrees to see how quickly they grow, but hopefully they'll grow quickly enough so they won't bloom too short. If we look over at our market beds, these are snapdragons. I have a snapdragon there at the corner, a snapdragon at this corner, and carrots here that we've been harvesting for our family over the past couple weeks. Those overwintered. And then this bed just has the Shasta daisies, and I think I'm going to end up putting peppers here, and I'm not sure what I'm going to put on the corner here, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to put my peppers over there once they're ready to go out. I just transplanted some parsley here this past week. There are sweet peas that self-seeded here. If they decide to actually grow and make their way up the trellis, then I'll let them. But if not, I'll probably end up putting some type of tomato here on this trellis. We have daffodils here as well. These haven't bloomed yet for the season, so they're just starting to get their bloom stalks as well. And then we also have some carrots here towards the edge of the bed that are overwintered from last fall. So they were super small over the winter. I didn't actually think that they would make it, but they have. They probably need to be thinned, but I'm just gonna leave them alone for now. I'm probably not gonna do anything to them until the daffodils are all bloomed and have all been harvested. In this bed, this is all garlic, more garlic, and the ones here in the front and on the side are growing really well, and the ones here are growing much more slowly. Okay, and then here's a different angle of our flower path. We have our eucalyptus here. I think this eucalyptus is so cute. It needs to be weeded and mulched up, but I think it's like super cute, and I'm really hoping that it will grow up and just like shade this back area. Yeah, I just think that would be cute. I finally weeded this patch of snapdragons. In February's garden tour, this was full of weeds. But I finally weeded it because I didn't want to lose these snapdragons, and they're actually starting to bud up. I definitely should have weeded them a lot sooner, but I'm just glad that a majority of them survived the winter and are starting to put on bloom stalks. And then we have the daffodils of the flower path. Those are 2 hollyhocks right there. I didn't get any flowers from them last year, but I think I will get a flower from them this year. I want to say those were black hollyhocks, but I can't remember with 100% certainty. Pretty much all of these daffodils have been harvested. I left a couple that weren't super full. I just left them, so they're done. I'm gonna pull those stalks in a little bit. And then on this side we have Shasta daisies. That's a mum Shasta daisy. There's a sweet pea that I think a bird might have put over there. We get birds that dig in this area all the time. I think they get worms and roly-polies, I think. But you can see all this here. That just wasn't from the wind. I see the birds moving this mulch back all the time. So a mum Shasta daisy and more daffodils that have all been harvested. I'm gonna start seeds for marigolds pretty soon so that I can do my favorite thing to do, which is line each side with marigolds. And for the past 2 years, the first year I was able to get this side. Last year I got the marigolds lined on this side, but neither year have I been able to get marigolds on both sides. So my goal this year is to have enough marigolds to put on both sides of the flower path so it can be lined in marigolds, and I can just walk through this path of flowers. So there you have it. That's how things are looking here on this last week of March. Stay tuned so you guys can see the things that we have planned for April, because I'm gonna make it a priority to actually do a tour of our front yard farm because there have been lots of changes up there, and I'm looking forward to showing that to you guys. And for you guys seeing all the progress that we've made over the past several months, because that front yard farm is finally coming to fruition, and I'm excited with the way that things are turning out. And yeah, I just hopefully can provide some inspiration for somebody else who might be thinking that they want to turn their front yard into a cottage garden, a micro farm, or a homestead. So thank you guys for tuning in and for following along to see what we have growing on here at Squire Studio. And until next time, keep learning and keep growing.